Hi YouTube, this is We All Juggle Knives with the Cold Steel Trailhawk. Alright, now the steel of the hawk head is 1055 mid-carbon steel. The total length of the hawk is 22 inches, so it's a longer hawk. Right, and it is made in Taiwan, or at least the head is. The price on this around $21. Alright, here's a close-up of the head and the edge. I did sharpen this because it does have a light head weight, and I wasn't going to mess around with a dull hawk with a light head weight, you know. It's got that hole there in case you want to put a screw through the head to secure it. Right? And instead of a back spike, it has a hammer surface, which I actually prefer. I prefer a hammer end on my hawks. Right? And it's very light, very handy. Now I have two types of cordage. For overstrike protection and a choke-up grip, I have that paracord. And then below that I have what's called duty, which is a thinner cord, but you get a lot more length. Okay, let's see it do something. We're going to start off with a small easy branch. Now this hawk is relatively good at just chopping up small branches. You know, like I said, it has a light head weight, so when it tries to take on larger diameter branches, you know, it's going to have a bit more trouble, but you can do it. Yeah, kill that branch. Okay, this is a larger branch, and also this is harder wood. Okay, that wood is just harder wood than the previous branches. And you can see you can woodpecker through it, right? You know, it just takes a lot of hits, but you can eventually woodpecker through larger diameter branches if you need to. Not ideal, right? But if you had to. Okay, I'm just chopping up some scrap pieces of wood just in the interest of you seeing this, you know, chop more things. Now, as you probably understand, this is not meant to be a carpenter's hatchet, right? My Estwing carpenter's hatchet would surely tackle this job much more easily. All right, so yeah, I mean, you got to know what it's good for, but the point is, if it's what you have, you know, you could kind of use it like a carpenter's hatchet. But there is a trade-off, a benefit. It's extremely light in weight. This is one of Cold Steel's lightest hawks. Right? And you can split with it too. Boom. Some smaller pieces. Right? But now, yeah, larger pieces. Wait for it. Boom. Yeah, so basically you just have to hit them a lot harder. You know, you can split wood, but you have to hit the pieces of wood much harder. Okay, what I'm doing here is making like a wooden tent stake. You can use your tomahawk to shape pieces of wood for whatever you need, you know? One cool thing is that if you have a hawk, you can always have a spear. You know, at least a wooden spear. If you had a longer piece of wood, right, you can shape the end of that and make a nice pointy stick. Okay, so you can make a tent stake. You can make a wooden spear. You know, you can pretend it's First Blood Rambo, where he hunts the wild boar. You could make a piece of a trap. You know, it's just altogether useful. But the real reason that I'm actually making this little wood stake is vampires. They might attack. No, kidding. Actually, I wanted something that I could hammer so that I can actually show you the hammer end in action. So that's why I made this. Yeah, and it came out nice and pointy, anti-vampire weapon. Okay, so the hammer end. Now, like I said, I actually prefer the hammer end rather than a spike just because it's darn useful to have a hammer with you. And as far as weapon use, it still has a lot of concussive force and stopping power. All right, this is that same stake. Now, if you sharpen both ends, you can make what they call a punji stake or punji stick. right? It was a trap used in the Pacific. It was used in Burma. I'm not sure if it was used in World War II. It probably was, but it was definitely used in Burma as well as Vietnam, right? And again, we're having a little Rambo moment. You know, if you have to defend, you have to defend. Actually, they used to dig a pit. They would dig a pit and line it with these stakes, and they would camouflage it and try to impale you, or they would put it where you would likely run during an ambush, and you trip and fall into this spiky pit, right? So let's plant this in the previous hole. Yeah, punji stakes. And they used to actually cover the ends with waste to cause infection. Definitely very nasty. Okay, but that's just dirt, obviously. So yeah, don't try to invade, man. Don't try to invade my backyard. All right, speaking of the hammer end, you can demolish things, cinder block walls, brick walls. Yeah, boom. So overall, what do I think of this hawk? You have to know what something's good for and what it's not good for. If you're looking for a big heavy axe to chop down a tree, this is not what you want. However, it's very light in weight, which is actually probably what most of us need because it's much more common to do casual camping trips than it is to live out there for a month with nothing, okay? So you probably don't need something that heavy duty. Yeah, so this is a great lightweight thing. I mean, if you have to hike, 20 miles climbing over a mountain or something, you definitely want something nice and light. It's very practical with that hammer end. As far as throwing this, I did try a few throws, but with such a light head, it just wasn't as easy to throw and it didn't hit as hard as some of my other hawks. So I just prefer to throw hawks with a heavier head. Now, as far as modifications, I would definitely recommend that paracord wrap because the edge length on this hawk is only 2¼ inches. So your chance of accidentally, missing your target and doing an overstrike where you smash the neck part of the handle onto whatever you were hammering or chopping, there's a big chance of that. So the paracord will protect the handle and also give you a grip when you choke up. Okay, showing two knives here, my Opinel folding knife and my Martini fixed blade. Now, a lot of people are kind of in love with the idea of a one-tool solution, even to the point that they'll take the head of the Tomahawk off and use it as a separate cutting tool, and they just want one thing to do it all. Now, it's great to know how to do that and to have those skills, but for just practical reasons, I would highly recommend carrying a small knife in addition to your hawk, because the small knife can be used for slicing, for push cutting, piercing, and fine work. And a small knife like this weighs almost nothing and really complements the hawk. Okay, final conclusions on this Cold Steel Trailhawk. Well, it did need some sharpening. I would recommend you sharpen it before using it. Remember, it's not a knife. It does have kind of a broad geometry, but then again, that's why it was able to split those pieces of firewood. All right, so overall, it's a great item for the price. I mean, $21? Yeah, definitely for just casual camping. Yeah, very useful. Definitely pleased with it, and I do highly recommend it.